Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for today, Tuesday, August 12th, 2025. Let's start off by looking at the National Hurricane Center homepage. This is where it all begins, usually every single video, as you know by now, with Tropical Storm Erin, the main discussion of the tropical weather outlook for today. And again, it's going to be the main discussion for at least the next week here in the Atlantic. As of the 5 p.m. advisory, maximum sustained winds still holding on at 45 miles per hour, minimum central pressure 1,006 millibars, and located at 17.0 north, so exactly at 17 north, and 38.3 west, and it's moving west at 22 miles per hour, and kind of beginning a slight southwest motion at this time. But we'll get back to the Atlantic in just a moment. Just really quickly want to show you what's going on in the Pacific. Nothing much, but we still have Tropical Storm Henriette here. That'll just progress off to the northwest and not really be much of a threat or any much of concern at all. So no need to worry about Henriette, just pointing it out. But let's get on here to Erin today because quite a few interesting things have happened with it. As you could tell, definitely does not look as robust as it did yesterday. Earlier this morning, it ingested quite a bit of dry air, and at a time this morning, its entire structure was completely exposed with absolutely no convection at all. But as you can see in the latest frames here, convective activity is starting to come back, and definitely has a pretty organized structure with it. And Erin is only moving in more favorable conditions, as I've been talking about over the last several days. I think I even mentioned a few days ago that this will probably develop, and I guess it developed pretty quickly. It developed on Sunday, or I think yesterday. Actually, yesterday morning it developed. It'll probably be slow to intensify at first because it still has to contend with a lot of the dry air that we have in the eastern Atlantic. And in fact, I'll show you here on the Saharan air image. You can see lots of Saharan air to the north and still quite an abundance of Saharan air to the west of the storm. And I should have showed you the satellite picture from earlier, but it ingested quite a bit of that Saharan air this morning, and effectively killed off all of its convection earlier today, but is continuing to burst. It's probably going to be on the uptick once again tonight and into tomorrow, and we'll probably see intensification resume. And once again, given the fact that Erin is a small storm, I would not be surprised if we start seeing intensification occur more quickly. And the other part that I want to mention, and I've been mentioning this for the past several days, is no matter what it did here in the eastern Atlantic, conditions further west are much more favorable. Things are pretty much nuclear, and I've been stressing that for the last several days. The sea surface temperature anomalies pretty much throughout the entire MDR, especially in the central and western MDR, heading into the southwest Atlantic, where this is pretty much going to track. Sea surface temperature anomalies are solidly a degree Celsius above normal, in some cases even further. So this has a lot of energy and fuel to work with as this heads further west, and eventually going to mix out all that dry air, and Erin is probably going to intensify. In fact, let me bring you back to its cone here because I forgot to bring up the cone, but you know what, we'll do it now. Still forecast to become a major hurricane by the National Hurricane Center by Sunday afternoon. Now, if things go better for it within the next 24 hours, I definitely think that we'll probably see a major hurricane earlier, probably maybe by Friday, or maybe Thursday night. You never know. But Erin is a small system, and it's definitely in a recovering phase right now. And again, things are only going to get favorable further west, and still probably going to become a major hurricane as this progresses throughout the western Atlantic here over the next several days. But beyond that, whether or not, we have to watch for impacts to the Bahamas or the United States East Coast, still way too far out to really talk about right now. But I do want to show you the track guidance, at least out to the next week. And I want to show you what the 0Z track guidance was for today, just to show you, what the general consensus was. And Especially from last night to this morning, a lot of the models definitely had a pretty noticeable southwesterly trend. In fact, I think I saw the H Wharf last night. Some of the models were damn near just a few miles off from some of these northern Antilles islands in the northeastern Caribbean near Puerto Rico, like the U.S. Virgin Islands, and some of these islands in here were very, very close, or were on a very close approach by Erin. Now compare that to the 18Z model run from this afternoon, and you definitely see a northerly trend in the models today. So we went from last night to this morning. We had a southerly trend, and a lot of people were starting to become a little bit more concerned. But now we went from this morning to this afternoon models once again, and I'll show you one more time, just really quickly comparing the two. 0Z this morning to 18Z this afternoon. Definitely a noticeable trend, and definitely a trend that we'll want to continue. But I will note that Erin is once again a weak system, and especially the fact that it is weaker right now. I think it'll probably remain a little bit more on a westerly and probably dip in a southwesterly direction for the next several days. And we'll see if this track comes back further south, because once again, once we get towards around the islands, and just north of the islands, that's only 5 days out. So we only have so much certainty and lots of uncertainty on what the track is going to be, and we just keep on having these shifts back and forth, more south and then more north again, pretty much every single day. So the bottom line is, once we get towards around 5 days out, it's still very uncertain, and I'd even say that those in the Northern Islands should keep a watchful eye, especially Bermuda, keep a watchful eye to Erin, because even if this does not impact the U.S. East Coast, one place that probably will get a very close pass from Erin um, will probably be Bermuda. But even then, the United States definitely watch this storm over the next week. Again, it's going to be a very long week of tracking ahead. Erin is just one of those storms that you have to watch it on a day-to-day basis, because a lot will change literally within a day. So let's look at the 18Z GFS, just to show you what it does. And like all the model guidance has done today, 18Z GFS kind of takes us on a westerly track for a few days, and then begins intensifying it pretty quickly. And then once it does so and pretty much reaches around the longitude of the islands, then takes a very sharp turn to the north, and then definitely well out to sea, or at least well off from the U.S. East Coast. So not a direct U.S. impact at all. Still very close to Bermuda, though, and Bermuda is obviously a populated area, so we need to watch that, of course. But kind of like all the other trends of the models today, more towards the north and more towards the east. But one thing I do want to mention is it is weaker in the shorter term, especially compare that to just a few model runs ago. This is, let's say, I'll show you from the 0Z model run from this morning. Now let's compare that down to the 18Z run from today. Definitely weaker in the shorter term, and obviously that's a reflection of how things have changed from last night to this morning related to Erin. But I mentioned that because these small fluctuations, these small deviations in the shorter term really do have an impact on the longer term trend, especially that this is probably going to remain weaker in the shorter term, at least temporarily, obviously because, going back to the satellite, it ingested quite a bit of dry air this morning. It's probably going to keep it on a more westerly track, and again, we'll still have to see what happens beyond the 7-day time frame. But I guess, promising trends that it'll probably stay more out to sea, at least if you believe the models today. And I'll just top that off by showing you what the European shows. And they show slightly a little bit more, I guess, west and south of the GFS. But even then, once we get past the Northern Islands, just east of the Bahamas, especially around the 5 to 7 day time frame, the European also takes a very sharp turn out to sea, although very close to Bermuda. And even if this doesn't impact the U.S. East Coast, Atlantic Canada is still under line of fire, and we've actually had quite a share of pretty intense storms that have impacted Atlantic Canada. So you guys are not out of the woods either, especially Atlantic Canada, not out of the woods. And then right behind that, you could already see the signs. Another system that the European is indicating roughly around 8 days out from now. And I said this would happen. We would have Erin, and Erin is probably just the beginning. Since we're only on August 12th, we are not even halfway through the month yet, and we're not even at the official peak day of the hurricane season, which is in early September. But actually, I really meant to say the official first day that we actually start ramping up to the peak, August 20th. We're not even there yet. So we have Erin, and we're definitely going to have more that's going to come behind that. And very interesting that you could already see that appear on the Euro. So even if Erin does not impact the United States, do not breathe a sigh of relief for the rest of the season that, oh, we dodged Erin, now we're going to be able to dodge the rest of the season. That probably will not be the case. But obviously, don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Going to mainly focus on Erin for at least the next week because things could still change. And we're really going to have to watch how it fares in the shorter term because what it does in the shorter term will impact the longer term. But for now, going to wrap it up for today's video because there's not really much beyond that, at least not in our areas of concern in the Atlantic and the Pacific, or the Eastern Pacific. I know there is some stuff going on in the Western Pacific. Maybe we'll look at that briefly tomorrow. But for now, nothing much else to talk about for this evening, so I'm going to leave it off here. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with family and friends as well. And also, if you're new to the channel and you like what you saw, I especially recommend that you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them, because I'm doing these videos every single day, and we will continue to be doing these videos every single day from now pretty much till the end of the hurricane season. So you'll want to stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for another video coming your way tomorrow. But until then, have a great rest of your night.